Okay, so this question comes from activity 4 of Unit 5. And it is question number 2 from the assignment. So if we're looking at the question, the first thing that I would like to do is label the random variable. So I'm just going to write that out. And the random variable is what you're looking for. Now that being said, can you tell me what exactly we're looking for in that table?
The experienced players.
That's right. And I wouldn't just write experienced players. I would put, what would I put in front of it? Not just experienced players. I don't want their names. I don't want how tall they are. What do I want?
The X or the random variable?
I want the number of experienced players. Okay. Number of experienced players. Okay, that being said, if we start the probability distribution, which is just a table, what do we have on the left side of any probability distribution?
You have P bracket X equals X.
So that goes on the right?
Yeah.
Okay, but what goes on the left? What are we calculating? That's exactly it. So it's the random variable here, right?
Yeah.
So we need to determine what's going on. So it's confusing here because there are so many numbers, but if you really take a look at the number of experienced players, how many can you have? Starting from the lowest, what's the lowest amount of experienced players you can have?
0.
Okay. And what's the most experienced players you can have?
12.
That's exactly it. So I know it's confusing because of the 15 and the 20, but you really have to consider that the team cannot have any more than 12 players.
Okay.
So now here's the funny thing. You won't recognize this. I see it right away, but you won't recognize it until you start doing the work. So we'll start doing the work for 0, and we'll kind of fill in that table, okay?
Okay.
So the probability that X equals 0. I can't do anything until I know what kind of distribution this actually is.
Okay.
So what kind of distribution is this?
I don't know.
Do you think it's going to be a uniform distribution? Like rolling a dice or...
No.
Okay. So the next two choices are binomial and hypergeometric, right?
Yeah.
So both of those are super similar. It's either you're going to pick an experienced player or you're not. So both have a success and a failure.
Yeah.
So we're still not really sure if it's binomial or hypergeometric. Do you know how to tell the difference?
No, not really.
Okay, so binomial is an experiment that is independent, and hypergeometric is a experiment that is dependent. So let's look at what's going on here. We're picking players. So let's say I do pick, we'll go with one first. Let's say I pick one experienced player.
Yeah.
Does that affect the other players that I'm going to pick?
It can.
Yeah, absolutely. If I take one experienced player out, that means there's one less experienced than there is less experienced, right?
Yeah.
So I've just kind of increased the other odds by a little bit because I'm not putting him back in line. I've picked him and now I've affected everybody else. So when that happens, is that an independent trial or is that a dependent trial?
Dependent.
It is dependent. And when it's dependent, do you remember what I just said? Dependent equals
hypergeometric.
That's exactly it.
Okay.
So that would be important to have in your notes. Independent would be what?
Binomials.
That's right. So I'm glad that you asked this question today. So that if you have questions like this on the test, you'll be able to figure it out. So we'll start with 0, might as well. Hypergeometric has a really complicated formula.
Does it have a set formula? Because it doesn't really write one, I don't think, in the content. Or is it?
Yeah, it does.
Is it like the A over X and then?
It's A over X, R minus A over... I'll go and find it with you. Hold on.
Okay, I see it.
You do see it?
Yeah.
Okay, can you tell me what it is?
In the first bracket, it's a over x.
Okay, remember that this is not a fraction, it's combinations, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And then the other one, I'm not sure if it's a combination, but it goes n minus a over r minus x.
Okay. All that divided by?
And then n over r.
Right. Those are all combinations.
Okay.
So let's label our variables because that's tough to do. So we'll just write a, x, n, and r. Do you know what one of these are?
I can't see your screen. I can only see the question.
Okay, hold on a second here. Okay, do you have any idea what any of these variables are?
Like what they mean, or like what
No,
the values?
what the values are. You don't ever have to really memorize what they mean, but you kind of have to have an idea of what they are.
Well, x is going to be 0 because we're looking for the probability of 0.
Perfect.
Um,
What does n mean to you? I find x and n are the easiest ones.
n is like the total people can be chosen, I think.
In total, like everyone. So what would that number be?
12.
Total. Everyone.
20?
Yep. So then A is another total?
But it's the successes.
That's right.
Okay.
So the successes of what you're looking for. So this is where you have to know what your random variable is. And your random variable would be to get 0 experienced players.
Yeah.
So A would represent the total amount of experienced players.
So it'd be 15?
Yep. And R represents the amount
of the non-experienced?
That's right.
Okay.
No. R represents the total amount of people on the on the team.
Okay, so that would be 12.
That's right. Now, I find that really hard to find, okay? That's something that you may want to study just a little bit more, but on the review, if you just do the review very, very carefully, you'll be okay for the test, and you won't have to really worry about this too much. You know, there will be hypergeometric, but I mean, you just kind of have to study it a little bit more.
Study like this formula?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the formula, just what these values are. I kind of have a trick though. I have a trick. Forgetting those letters, okay? Forget about N, X, R, and everything. Forget all of it. What are you looking for?
The probability of choosing, well, in this case, 0 experienced players.
0 out of how many total?
12.
Total.
20.
Sorry. So 0 experienced players out of how many experienced players?
15.
Yeah. So here, this first bracket has to do with experienced players.
Okay.
So if you're picking 0 experienced players, how many non-experienced players are you picking?
You'll pick 12 over 12.
You'll be picking 12 out of, not 12 at the top.
20?
No, because, okay, here, you've got, how many non-experienced players are left? If you've got 15 experienced players and 20 to pick from in total, how many non-experienced players do you have?
5?
Yep. I'm just going to write this down on the side here.
Wait, why would you say... But the 12 is... But they said there's 12... Oh, okay, never mind.
So I'll try to explain this a little bit more right after we do the bottom. What's the total amount of players that we're picking out of total amount of players? So the bottom is total of everything.
So 20 over... Or 12 over 20?
So make sure that your total... I think this should be N choose R, right? At the top, right here?
Yeah, N over R.
Okay, sorry, I had it backwards. So the total amount of players is 20, and you're choosing 12. Okay, so let me re-explain this a little bit. If you split it up this way, it might help you find those values. So total experienced players, there's 15 total, right?
Yeah.
And you're picking 0 out of those 15, right?
Yeah.
But if you pick 0 out of your 15, how many non-experienced players are you picking?
5, because there's...
Yep.
If you go 20 minus 15.
That's exactly it. So you go 20 minus 15 here. And how did you get that 12?
Because they want to choose 12 people.
You're going to have to pick 12 people, right?
Yeah.
So now the bottom is total everything. I think you're okay for that one. So here's the problem. If you try typing this into your calculator, do you see what's going to happen?
Wait, what?
If you type in 5 choose 12 in your calculator, what's going to happen? Do you have one close by? Or do you want me to just type it up?
I got it. It says error.
Exactly. And if you had an error there... Oh, I got 0.
Yeah, I get an error. I don't know why.
Oh, that's weird. That's really weird. Well, regardless, doesn't matter. It doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
So you can't actually do 0. You can't do 0 at all. None of this will work.
Oh.
So let's try 1. So now that we have our values, it's a little bit easier. The only one that's going to change is your x, right?
But what made you look at 5 over 12 to see if it was an error? Like, if I was doing this on a test and, like, you weren't helping me.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. You wouldn't know until you got there. So you would do 15, choose 0. I'll do that on my calculator to get an answer, right? It would be 1.
Okay.
And then you would go to the next one, and that's when you would say, oh crap, this doesn't work.
Okay.
Okay. So then we go on to the next value of 1. So now that we know our values, it's a little bit easier. So we're choosing 1 out of 15 experienced. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you try the rest?
Would you still go 5 over 12? Or 4 over 12?
It would still be 5 non-experienced. That doesn't change, but
it would be 11.
It would be 11.
Okay.
Over what?
And then it would be 20 over 12.
Okay. Can you look at this and tell me if it's going to work or not?
Probably not.
Why?
Because 5 over 11 probably will equal an error again.
That's exactly it. So you can't have an R value. You can't have a value.
The bottom.
That's exactly it. So when is it going to work? So let's do this by not writing it down, but just doing it orally, okay? So my value at the bottom, we tried 1 player. Let's try 2. So I won't write it down, but just try to work with me, okay?
Okay.
So it'll still be 5 non-experienced players, but if I pick 2 experienced, how many non-experienced?
It'll be 5 over 9.
9 plus 2 is 11. And we need 12 players on the team.
So 10?
Yep. And will that work? 5 over 10?
No.
Okay, let's try 5 just for the fun of it. So if I have 5 players choosing from 15, that means how many inexperienced players am I picking from?
It would be 5 over 7.
Does that work?
No.
Nope. So let's move on to picking 6.
It'll be 6 over 6, so...
No, not 6 over 6.
Or 5 over 6.
Okay.
So no.
So no. And...
So start at 7.
We start at 7. So those are things that you're going to have to